So I'm here to talk about the quality management system, our learning system. How does it all pull together, everything you've heard so far? And where does QI sit in that bigger picture of what we're trying to do? Where does the patient voice, our users of service voice, patient leadership, co-production, co-design, how does it all come together and tell us one story? So that's what I'm trying to do over the next 10 minutes or so. All right. And I always try to start to think about what does NELFT really mean to me. That's what it means to me. It might mean something different to you. Ed always talks about that nurturing part. So there is something about how we come to that place around nurturing. I'll probably the other ones, you can pick them up. But I think when I think about NELFT, I think about what does it really mean. It's not just an organization. And I would want you to remember this picture in your head. Remember it. And I think while you're remembering, you start to ask yourself some questions. What does it take to have that environment? What does it take to have those flowers blooming very well? Does it take one thing? Does it take two things? Does it take three? Does it take four? And also thinking about what happens underneath. The flowers is what we see. What happens underneath it? What happens under the soil? And what we need in the soil to produce that. If you think that when you start to work through that, you are getting closer to start to think about quality management systems. Around how does it pull together to show that. But most of the time what we see is the flower and we buy them in Tesco or Asda's, whatever shop. We don't actually have an idea, we don't actually think about where they've come from. So I think it's really sometimes it's good to remind ourselves of that journey. So I'll probably not land on this because I think colleagues will get very interested about that. But there's something around our system about how do we start to pull stuff around our quality planning, quality controls, quality assurance, quality improvement as part of that learning culture. That at the heart of everything we do is about how do we learn. But at the heart of what we do, why do we learn? Because we want to make it different to the users of our service at the heart of everything we do. So there is that part, and I think this is probably maybe one of those areas which brings together quality and finance. That's why I get on very well with Marco, because I always talk about money. Because I think you can't really talk about patient safety and delivery right care without talking about money. And actually, what they say is good care costs less, bad care costs much more money. So if we can deliver good care, it's actually quite good financially, but actually bad care costs much more. So if you always think that way, then actually you then see that there's a relationship between quality and finance. Because actually if one of them is not working, then the other one doesn't work. So I think this really pulls it together to start to think about how do we reduce wastage, because I think that's where stuff around QI comes in around. Actually, if we can reduce wastage, we can improve, outcomes become better. Because the end result, it doesn't matter what job you are in the organization, it doesn't really matter. It's really that story of the man who was made by J.F. Kennedy, and he was asked what does he do, and he says, I'm here to put a man on the moon to help. And that man was there to clean. So if we can start then understanding that actually cleaning at NASA was part of a journey. So I think it's really about how do we understand that there's nothing called I'm just an admin, I'm just this, and I'm just that. There's nothing called just. You are an important part of the delivery of the outcomes for the population we serve. That's why we're here for. So I think if we can remember that also, that probably helps us in that journey. So this is our system. At the heart of it is learning. So I think if we can start to think about our learning system, how do we pull it together to get to that space about learning, trying to get to the way we do? We do it this way. So if you put learning at the heart, you've got your quality planning to say actually before you do anything. I think your QI stuff is done, your planning and all that stuff. How do we make sure that the voice of the people who use our service are part of that planning? So we need them to be drawing them in to help us and support through that. Learning, we kind of know where we are. So there's that part around relationships. So you can't deliver this without pulling some of the stuff around relationships, because the relationships are very important in order for us understanding people, understanding their contribution. That part we're saying, like nobody is just. Everyone matters. Everyone has got a voice in the volume, but they need to pray. But there's that part around like a clear vision and purpose. Actually, how do we think in that space? To be able to be very clear that we are consistent having a clear vision of what the purpose of where we need to get to. Co-design and co-production is very important, because it has to be about the voice of the population we serve. So everything we do, we can't be bringing users of service and patient leadership to consult with, which is I think what we used to do before. People used to just bring them in and consult. They've already decided that the building is going to be painted white, and then they bring users of service and say, actually, what do you think about this color? And then they manage to maneuver them to white, which was already decided. And I think what we are getting to is actually how do you start with nothing? When you think of improvement, before you even do anything, you start saying, like, who do you need around the table to give you the right voice? Rather than actually, if we started a journey and say, oh, we've forgotten something, we've got no patient leadership, let's just get through. So that doesn't work. So I think it's really about actually making sure that co-production drives some of that way where we need to get to. But I think it's that part, and I think which Caroline would say around quality improvement. But how do we make sure that quality improvement is not a corporate function? It doesn't sit somewhere in the tower somewhere. How do we make sure that the quality improvement actually is sitting in the directorates, it's driving all those stuff which we do? That they really start to make it somewhat around that different. That actually, when we are measuring things, something drops, you get quality improvement, it goes back up, you are happy to maintain it. So and how do you put that into that space? So the stuff which we are doing again is organization around leadership and culture, very important. Just information culture again pulls into that space. Then you've got your assurance around like our audit, which we're talking about. It's part of quality assurance. So I should make sure that maybe we are sure, we're clear about like where we are landing through that part. So I'll jump that. So really, where we need to get to as an organization is about how do we use data. How do we make sure that everything we do is driven by data? Because if you are doing anything without data, it's just an opinion. Someone just wakes up and I think the incidents are going high on Monday. Just an opinion. There has to be data which says actually, is it going up? Is it going low? When you have done a lot of all that stuff you've done, you didn't just decide, I think it's 50% now. We had to measure it. So I think if we start using data to then drive outcome, then I think that becomes important. Then there's that part around our managerial enabling and the clinical leadership, which has been done, we support through that. So in each of the directorate, it then looks like so. Because when we get to a place where you've got your associate director, a medical, you've got psychology lead, you've got your pharmacy lead, you've got your AHP lead, you've got the nursing lead, and all those colleagues are trying to really deliver what's in that middle, which is really around the quality, safety, patient experience, involvement, outcomes, and they can't do it alone. You would have to use some of those colleagues in that space. And in that part, you would need that improvement in innovation is in there. So in each of the directorates, there is representative from QI who are then supporting to deliver where we need to get to. This is just, don't worry, this is just really an example of what we are doing in QSC now going forward. So the presentation in QSC, anything which comes to QSC, is now done in that QSA format, where they would have to do their introduction. They'll have to talk about quality planning around what they're doing in that area. They'll have to talk about controls, even if it was a directorate, what controls are they putting in place. They'll have to think about assurance, what assurance do they have in whatever they are doing. And then they'll have to talk about improvement, stuff around there, they might be improving, what are they focusing for whether it's a directorate, whether it's a team. They'll have to also focus about learning. What have they learned? What are we doing better? And co-production is to be part of some of those conversations and involvement. If they involve users of service, if they involve staff in that space. So that's really maybe like really going forward around and how do we then make sure we start to pull that journey together. So hopefully maybe in less than 10 minutes, I try to kind of say how does it all come together to then give us a system which then gives us those lovely flowers. Thank you.